everybody, Gina Mizell here alongside Danny Moran. It is Tuesday and it is Michigan week. Oregon State, of course, preparing to travel to the Big House on Saturday afternoon, and it was a defensive availability day. So we talked to Kalani Sitake about this Michigan offense. Obviously a very physical unit that went up against Utah. What were kind of the biggest things that stuck out to you as far as what he said about this matchup?
The theme of the week has continued from Gary Anderson's press conference last week, which is physicality. We didn't count the amount of times he said it, but everyone's clearly gotten the message. I mean, the whole team was able to watch the game on Thursday. They watched it in their hotel, meaning when Michigan played Utah, Oregon State was able to watch that as a team. I mean, they've got some great athletes. I mean, they seemed very excited just to be able to play that game. I think there's kind of an attitude that nobody expects anything from them this year. I mean, they're picked last in the Pac-12 North. There's all the hubbub. Sports Center is going to be about Jim Harbaugh being back. Not a lot of focus on Oregon State, actually, so I think there's kind of an excitement to play that game. Yeah,
I mean, Gary Anderson mentioned yesterday that he's obviously been up to Michigan twice when he was at Utah, and Kalani Sitake, same way. In fact, they were up there last year, and so he talked about the atmosphere, and we heard they were pumping extra crowd noise in during practice today. So it sounds like they're getting ready for the environment, but also downplaying it at least a little bit from Kalani Sitake's perspective.
Yeah, he was saying, I mean, you kind of get there, I mean, with him having been there, and there's 100,000 people, and it's a cool thing to see, and then it ultimately just becomes a football game, which is kind of what you'd expect him to say and what the message that you want. I think for Oregon State defensively now, I mean, they had a great performance, but everyone kind of has the same caveat that it was Weber State. And so, okay, now let's see it against Michigan, and even if their quarterback, Jake Rudock, was struggling, in that kind of atmosphere against a Power 5 team, can you turn in a performance, maybe not 0 for 13 on third down conversions, which is what Oregon State held Weber State to, but something to that effect.
Right, and one thing that Kalani Sitake said, I guess his biggest disappointment or his biggest concern coming out of the Weber State game were just plays that were missed on the field, whether they were missed tackles, missed sacks, missed interceptions. So that's something that he's hoping to clean up this weekend, and they're going to need those plays against Michigan. You can afford to miss some of those plays against a team like Weber State, but if you have a chance to make a momentum swinging play against Michigan in the Big House, you got to do it.
Yeah, and you expect that kind of perfectionist attitude from him too. I mean, you can't say, "Oh yeah, you know, we held Weber State scoreless. The only score for Weber State was off an interception." So you can't say, "Okay, now everything's great." I mean, there's still things to tweak and things to work on. So you expect that going into, I guess, now the biggest game of the year to this point.
Yeah, well, of course, offensive players will be available after practice tomorrow, so we'll be able to talk to quarterbacks, talk to Dave Baldwin, sort of get more information from that perspective. But until then, keep reading our stuff on OregonLive.com and in the Oregonian. So for Danny Moran, I'm Gina Mizell. We will catch you from Corvallis tomorrow.